Hi, Biani. Day 5 of COP28. What's your take so far?
Yeah, thanks, Iggs. I think so far has been quite interesting. My key highlights and key takeaway, particularly for Zambia, is the day 2 pronouncements from our world leaders. We did hear a very, very, I think, monumental pronouncement that was made around the setup of the Loss and Damage Fund.
Yes.
So far, we've seen commitments from a lot of the developed countries pushing in as much as $500 million to that fund. It will go a long way in dealing with climate-related damages or losses that could arise due to climate change.
So you're talking about droughts,
Yes.
flooding, and things like that.
Absolutely. As you know, those things affect us more than anything.
Yes.
Just last year, we had floods in Malawi, Mozambique, and parts of Zambia. So
Excellent.
that should really go a long way in dealing with calamities such as those.
And then remember, we spent some time at the WWF Panda Pavilion. What were your thoughts on that, and with regards to the general audience in that discussion? What was your reaction with that?
Yeah, I was very happy with the focus around ensuring that the sustainable journey and climate change is inclusive.
Yes.
We all know that women have been marginalized financially for quite some time.
Yes.
But the fact that we are all waking up to the realization that change globally and at a world platform is driven by women is good. And if you noticed, we did have a representative from WWF China, as well as a representative from the US Treasury office.
And our speaker.
Yes, and yourself and myself, and our speaker as well. It was gratifying to see the focus that's been drawn into providing sustainable finance to particularly women.
And for me, what actually was quite critical there is the fact that it's not just financial support that we need to provide, but also non-financial advice.
Yes.
As bankers, it's not all about the money, but how do you use that money if it's provided to you?
Absolutely.
That really matters as well.
Absolutely. I don't know how you found, since you've just talked about the non-financial help, what were some of your takeouts or takeaways around what kind of help we can extend, particularly to women?
Yeah, so one of my takeaways was the fact that in our setting in Zambia, there's a lot of rural women, and we have to reach out to them and give them some form of financial advice. I think one of the ministers, one of the MPs, actually, excuse me, not the minister, but he highlighted the fact that in his constituency, the people who actually access these funds have got little to no financial literacy. So it's actually important for us as banks to actually provide that level of literacy to help them understand how to manage their funds and finances.
Absolutely.
Yes. The other thing that caught my attention was we need to figure out how to fund these, because remember, it needs quite a bit of patience to fund certain initiatives, and not the immediate money, but rather patient capital.
Yes.
Yes.
And just moving away from our plenary discussion, what was your takeaway from yesterday? We spent quite a bit of time touring some of these innovative projects that are coming up. Which ones stood out for you?
For me, actually, it was the innovation side of things. There's a lot of things happening out there globally that if we adopted and adapted, could go a long way. It's more practical. A lot of the things that are spoken about at these events is, I wouldn't like to say a pipe dream, but it's a nice to have, but it will be good to actually have it implemented on the ground.
Yes.
I don't know what your thoughts are.
I was particularly impressed with the innovation around that little gadget that literally converts air
into water. Yes.
That can go a long way if we got a lot of such innovations in the rural areas, particularly around schools.
For the less privileged.
For the less privileged.
Those who don't have access to clean water.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also the issue around using satellite imagery and data to identify the movements around underground water. That's also a critical piece.
Very useful for farmers and very useful for planning ahead.
Yes.
With regards to when you can utilize a lot of water and maximize the usage or minimize it when required. And it also makes you think about the type of irrigation we use. It's not always overhead irrigation that will work. Sometimes you might use a drip irrigation or something smarter.
Absolutely.
But the use of water is actually very important for our environment. If you recall, at that stand, there was emphasis on the fact that the whole world needs to eat.
Yes.
Essentially, we need food.
Yes.
But if we mismanage our resources, then we won't be able to plant or grow any food.
And I was particularly happy about the realization that Africa is acting as the food basket.
The bread basket,
and
yes,
it's important that we harness those available water resources to ensure that we put them to good use and produce food that's needed
efficiently.
Globally. Efficiently, most importantly, efficiently.
Yes. Oh, happy with that.
All right.
So I think that should summarize pretty much day 5.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the rest of the days and seeing more innovation and also, in my case, funding that's available to help out our customers and the globe at large.
Excellent, excellent.
Hello everyone, we're back here at one of the final events of the Financial Insight coverage, and with me to just digest what's been going on for the last 2 weeks is Ignatius Kashoka, who is part of the FNB delegation, who are our principal sponsors for the coverage. Ignatius, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, I'm doing well.
Excellent.
Ignatius, it's been a long 10 days at COP.
It has.
And a lot of things have obviously happened. You and your colleague have been a part of several discussions. Yeah. You've attended a number of panel discussions, one of which I think was in the earlier part of COP28 in Dubai UAE. Yes. Just tell us through how the week has obviously progressed for you, and are there things that you've actually picked up that are of note that you see yourself taking back to Exco when you return to Zambia?
Absolutely. No, very good question actually. My first impressions when I got here is that this is a big event. It's massive. And to your point, I think earlier in the week you met some important people.
Yes, yes.
And yes, we took some pictures with some people, some important people. But most important is the announcements that were made. They have massive ramifications, massive impact. An example being the loss fund, the loss and damage fund. It's a very important fund in that when we're affected by issues to do with the climate, you can actually get compensation for that. And this speaks into people who are usually devastated by such events. That's in the rural areas, communities that are far out there, who have limited to no help, and are basically looking to donations, sponsorships here and there to recover or restart their businesses or their livelihoods in general. So quite a good number of sessions. Now, what worries me, and I say this because I think it worries a lot of people, it's the action. I've seen a lot of pledges, heard a lot of pledges, but I'm not sure if the funds are actually dispersed, available, and they're actually going to touch the communities that we're looking to help. And then to another point is there's a bit of misunderstanding with regards to the whole climate action. I'll give an example around why women matter, for instance. It's because they get impacted when climate, or basically in general, women get more impacted by any severe events. You will find that a drought in a certain area will force that women to go further out to fetch water. You'll find that they'll have less time to spend with their families, less time to spend on their small businesses, and you are very much aware that a lot of the time these women actually do support us in terms of the families and livelihoods of those families involved. The other piece that worries me is that there's quite a bit of legislation around these funds or accessing the funds that a lot of clarity is required. I've also had a few engagements here and there with regards to carbon trading and carbon credits. All of that is sort of like an enigma, a box that needs to be unpacked. Some projects that you might think are climate related might not be so because they don't meet some qualifying requirements. It's all that education that is required for everyone if you want to make an impact. It's the same thing with regards to the funding that's available. Funds may be available, but accessing those funds has got its own requirements and commitments. To me, those are my key takeaways. Oh yes, just one more small bit. I visited what you call the green zone, where all sorts of innovations and stuff happens. There's a lot that we could do for our climate. There's a lot that we could do in terms of innovation, be it in agriculture, be it in the way we measure carbon credits, be it in the way that we basically manage our resources. There's a lot of innovations out there. It will be interesting to basically look at all the stands and maybe put some resources in one space for everyone to pick out what works for them. But there's a lot of innovation out there that helps us to make a better world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just as a final thought, what is your main takeaway that you take back to Exco after participating in this year's event? And do we look forward to seeing you at COP28?
It's actually a very difficult question. And I say difficult because there's a lot that has to be done.
Absolutely.
So singling out one item will be very difficult. Just there's a lot that needs to be done. And it starts today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Ignatius, thank you so much for joining us on this one of the final interviews at COP28. Rather, I'm already into next year. But yes, so thank you so much to our followers who've been following all the content that we've been distributing on our platforms, and thanks to FNB for supporting us. And we're truly humbled to been able to capture, all the content around you and your participation in this year's COP.
No, thank you for following us.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Hi, Gianni.
Hi, Ignatius. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Thank you.
What was your takeaway from that last discussion you had, the key takeaway? What are your thoughts? I have some thoughts of mine, but I'm happy to hear what you felt about it.
Yeah, I think the observation, especially when it comes to, how maybe the proposal on how the loss and damage fund can be managed, like managed by the IMF or managed by the banks. Mm-hmm. The question is, how can this work? Especially when we are going to be dealing with local communities, because I'm focusing on local communities. So this creates already a barrier that excludes, the local communities, and in that case, we are mostly looking at women, children, youths, who may not have, the capacity, so to say, or may not have the means to be able to access some of these funds, especially when they are managed by banks. So yeah, that one was worrisome, I must say.
Yes.
And a very, very important point to financing.
You've actually brought up a very important point, which is how often do we actually partner with the communities we're trying to help? And I think that's where the challenge lies, because we don't understand fully in detail without their involvement. Yeah. So to your point, it's something we need to look at and work on.
Exactly.
For me, what worried me is the talk around the fact that funds are available, but are these new funds, are these pledged funds, or is it actual cash in a bank somewhere ready to be deployed? Those are the challenges I have, and maybe it's up to us as the bankers to do something about it, to put our money where our mouths are.
Exactly. There are a lot of promises that are announced and never actualized.
Absolutely.
And this is really worrisome, and we need to really push for serious leadership with integrity. Yes. When they promise, they must keep their promise. That's why there's been a lot of campaign on keep the promise, keep the promise. So we have to have that integrity, in order for us to actualize climate finance, especially that one will touch the communities.
No, thank you very much, Gianni.
Thank you so much.
Greetings everyone, my name is Cedric Chuma for Financial Insight Zambia here in Dubai, the UAE, which is the venue for this year's COP28 conference. Financial Insight Zambia was privileged to be at the conference, giving coverage to several private sector clients of ours who are here. We also got to see several landmark announcements. Locally, we had the announcement of 100 initial mini grids, which was announced by the president in conjunction, the president of Zambia, in conjunction with the president of the Rockefeller Foundation. We also saw significant deals. Firstly, the very first green bond ever issued in Zambia, $200 million by CEC. We also saw a significant deal with regards to PPAs between Green Coal and Ilute Solar as well as Serengeti Energy. That was some of the key highlights that happened with regards to our local news. And for the COP28 conference, this was a very special conference in that it's the very first conference with a global stocktake. What this simply means is there was a pooling of data to look at where we are in terms of the climate crisis and what gaps need to be addressed. It shows that we are in an unprecedented climate crisis, but we have a lot more work to do. The climate crisis affects every one of us, regardless of where you are, who you are, or any kind, and we only have one planet. I think that was something that really stood out from the global stocktake, and that more needs to be done. The other big news was, of course, the loss and damage fund, with pledged funds to actually help the damage and loss caused by climate change, and that's been a very significant step. More needs to be done with regards to that one as well. So it has been a very, very fruitful COP, and we were also privileged to cover Stanbic Bank Zambia, to cover FNB Bank Zambia, to cover WWF and Africa Green Co at this year's COP28 conference. Financial Insight Zambia continues to deliver, continues to provide relevant news up to date on the COP28 conference as well as on our clients' activities at the COP28 conference. Financial Insight Zambia also takes this particular opportunity to thank our amazing sponsors, namely Africa Green Co, the WWF Zambia, FNB, as well as Stanbic, who are our core clients, and we are very excited for the continued growth of all our clients, and we'd like to thank them for this opportunity to offer Financial Insight Zambia services. We also would like to thank every other party that has helped get us this far and helped us execute a very, very fruitful COP28 conference coverage. Keep everything glued to Financial Insight Zambia media platforms and our website. Thank you so much for watching, and get to know.